What's going on, everyone? It's another episode of Left Side Heavy, the podcast presented by Blue Wire Hustle. It's your host, Jevin Lefebvre, and this week I brought on Ian McNaughton, made his return to Left Side Heavy, and we recap the Super Bowl. We go over the game, kind of big moments that stood out to us. And then we went over some Aaron Donald, is he retiring? Eric Weddle, this guy's absolute football guy. And then talked about some Super Bowl 57 odds. Who do we like going into next season? Some early predictions, some Kyler Murray, that scandal with Arizona, that feud, what's going to happen. We talked about the NFL honors, the awards that were given out Thursday prior to Super Bowl Sunday. Then we talked some NHL headlines. Eichel making his debut for Vegas, to fully trade to the Flames, all that sorts of fun stuff. So be sure to listen to the episode. Head over to YouTube to watch it if you like watching more than listening. And be sure to leave a rating and review to help support the show. And here's Ian McNaughton. Enjoy. It's episode 83 of Left Side Heavy, the podcast presented by Blue Wire Hustle. I'm your host, Jevin Lefebvre, and I'm welcoming back my guy, Ian McNaughty Too Hottie, host of the SYP podcast, Speak Your Piece. How's it going, buddy? Thanks for joining me once again.
You're welcome. It's been a while since anybody's called me McNaughty Too Hottie. That's usually like my co-host, Scotty K. We call him Scotty Too Hottie. Yeah. So usually he's the one who's getting that, but it's nice. This weekend, I've been called Big E, Four Eyes, all the usual stuff. But it's good to throw in a curveball, right? You got to change it up every once in a while.
Oh, 100%. You got to keep them on your toes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it's not like you can, you're not in charge of your own nicknames, right? Like other people are responsible for your nickname. So I can't do anything about it. So whatever it is, what it is, right?
No, you're an absolute clown if you make up nicknames for yourself. You gotta let other people, decide them.
It's almost narcissistic in a way if you're creating your own nicknames. Like it's a bit of a psycho move that I'm not for.
No, yeah. Anyone who's creating a nickname for themselves he's not goated. He's the opposite.
No, he's not P. He's not P is what
he's not P. Yeah, he ain't pushing P.
Exactly.
No. But the Super Bowl happened this weekend, but we'll get to that soon. But how have you been lately? What have you been up to?
It's been a busy weekend. So I went up to Kelowna this weekend, drove up from Van, got to watch Super Bowl with Scott, another creator of ours, Gabe, Keith, the whole boys. So we got a big weekend together. Really entertaining weekend. I don't know where you want me to start with it, but got to see a lot of people I haven't seen in a while. Got to watch the Super Bowl with the bros. Again, second note in my book, never put Ian in charge of food. Big takeaway from the weekend for myself.
What's the story behind that?
So we ordered pizza for Super Bowl, right?
Naturally.
And I placed the order at 3:15.
Yeah.
Now I know that kickoff was at 3:30, but I figured with everybody here, by the time everybody would get in, we get settled in, maybe around halftime or like start of the second half, we could have some pizza.
And before you continue, having like food right at the beginning, like the main part of your meal right at the beginning, you gotta let yourself get comfortable with the game before you dive into some food. I made that mistake this past weekend, but
it's kind of like, when you go to, when you went to the movie theaters and like you got a little kids pack with you when you went to the movie theaters and you ate all the popcorn and food before the movie even started, you just ate it all during the previews.
Yeah.
That's the problem with, getting too much food, right? And I mean, we had snacks. We had like chips and some lollipops and, some snacks, right?
Yeah.
But the main course was going to come in the second half. And about 2 hours in, it, hadn't heard from the pizza place we were talking to because I placed the order online, which bit of a rookie move, but we got to save on delivery by ordering online. That's what I was going for. 2 hours later, nothing, hadn't heard from them. So I called them and I asked, hey, placed an order 2 hours ago. What happened? And they're like, oh, our online service has been down for a few hours. So that's probably why we haven't seen your order. It's like, that makes sense. And so they're like, Yeah. Whatever your order is, we'll get it done. It'll be there in an hour. Great. Perfect. Pizza didn't actually come until literally the fourth down that Burrow had in like the final drive. And it happens, right? It happens.
Yeah,
It happens. And we paid for it. I tipped the guy nice because I know it's Super Bowl. I know he's busy. I know he's got a lot going on. And we had pizza on the Rams kneel down. And I promised people pizza. We had pizza. And I think all the slices were gone in like 10 or 15 minutes.
Wow. That's well, you're not the only one that made a rookie move. So this wasn't Super Bowl, but this was Saturday. And I've been working at Papa Leo's for about 6 years, right? In and out of the lineup, sometimes on LTIR, going elsewhere, taking the salary cap off the Leos by, not being in the starting lineup. But, I'm still on the roster.
Yes.
I'm still on payroll. But anyway, so now that I'm in school full time, I'm back at Leo's, not working full time. So, sometimes a few blunders here and there, but I shouldn't be the one making the mistakes I'm making.
Yeah.
But the first part of this story wasn't my mistake. So someone comes up to me. I'm working front, pick up orders. It's busy Saturday night, hockey night in Canada. And he comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, so I have a pickup order for Brian." I'm like, "Okay, right." I look for it and I was like, "Ryan?" He's like, "No." I was like, 2 mediums and a gluten-free. He's like, "No, it should just be a medium meat lovers." I was like, "Oh, okay. So not Ryan." He's like, "No, with a B." I was like, "Oh, Brian." Okay. So I'm looking for the ticket. I can't find it. Right. I'm like, okay, like, I don't know, like, what happened? Like, sometimes they call the wrong store. They call this store, go and whatever. Sometimes you go to the wrong location. He shows me, he's like, "I placed it online." I was like, okay, maybe he pressed the wrong location. And he shows me on his phone. And I was like, okay. And he's like, "Oh," because at the bottom it says proceed to checkout.
Oh.
This guy, he never put his order through. So I was like, oh, well, you know what? And mind you, there's like 11 people behind him.
Yeah.
Like, everyone came at once to come pick up their order. So I'm looking for this ticket for like 5 minutes. And then, so I'm like, you know what? I'll just punch in the order right now and we'll make it. He's like, okay, sweet. I was like, so there's medium meat lovers. He's like, yeah. So he pays for it, everything, all's well, right? I go through all the other orders. People are there, slices, blah, 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 blah. 20 minutes goes by, right? And I'm like, why is he still here? I'm kind of going through. I was like, whatever, it'll probably come up. It's still not out like 10 minutes later. It's been like a half hour since I put in the order. I forgot to print the ticket. So that's the rookie move on my part.
Yeah.
So the poor guy, first part was his fault. I can't be blamed for that. He didn't put in his order.
Yeah.
That's on him. Second part, totally on me. No excuse there. So we had to throw the guy an extra, pound of wings on the house for our troubles. But yeah, rookie move on my part. And yeah, no excuse really.
No, and that's the whole thing about Super Bowl weekend for myself, is that it's never ever gonna go as planned. It's never always gonna go like you think it's gonna go.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to expect things are gonna go sideways here and there, and that's what happened with pizza on Sunday for us. So
yeah,
and it's my fault. I take the blame. It's on me. Shit happens, right?
It is what it is. You just gotta live with it. But
yeah.
Did you guys have some sort of hockey tournament too, or was that beer league? I saw you guys
so that's a great story. So Scott and his roommates, Keith and Gabe, they're in the Kelowna Junior Recreational Hockey League, KJRHL. Scott's doing the co-commissioner. I think he's the commissioner, if not the co-commissioner. He basically runs the league. Go follow that on Instagram at KJRHL. And we went to their game Sunday after Super Bowl. So like those guys weren't drinking too much. They weren't eating too much because they had a hockey game to play after Super Bowl,
Got
which
it.
is fine. I was covering a game in Kelowna on Friday night, so I had my nights closed. So I was coach. I was the coach for their rec hockey team.
Gotta look
But
snazzy for the boys.
looking snazzy for the boys, playing my role. Unfortunately, there were not just one fight, but two fights in said men's rec hockey league game. And in the 3 years that I've been up there, I don't ever remember there being a fight in a game.
Yeah.
And then there was two. There may or may not have been some drinking and some weed smoking because it's Super Bowl. Can't confirm nor deny that it happened, but there were fights, and looks bad on coach when there's two fights when there hadn't been any all year, but
gotta keep your boys in check. Gotta keep your boys in check.
Well, we're not gonna, we're not taking shit from anybody, right?
No.
Like, you can't mess with us.
Yeah,
Like,
you can't shy away from a showdown.
No, exactly. Luckily, I think they won 8-2, so we all look good. We all selly afterwards. Looks great. Yeah. But that's the Kelowna Junior Recreational Hockey League, KJRHL. Go follow that on Instagram. Go support Scott and the boys. Team Blue, that's their team. Team Blue, first place. They are chalk favorites to win right now. So once we get some betting odds figured out for that, we'll start doing our same game parlays with that.
Yeah, Sports Interaction, Betway. Throw us a fucking sponsor here, and we'll get these lines up.
Exactly.
Oh, fucking right. But so Super Bowl weekend, it was this weekend, but I want to talk about the Thursday prior to the Super Bowl. Little NFL honors happened, and some awards were given out, and I'm just going to rally them off, get your opinions on them just quickly here. So Rodgers, back-to-back MVPs, wins his fourth MVP. Cooper Kupp, Offensive Player of the Year. No, not really surprised there. TJ Watt finally gets his Defensive Player of the Year. Micah Parsons, Defensive Rookie of the Year. That one was a lock from like week 8. Jamar Chase, Offensive Rookie of the Year. There was some Mac Jones, momentum there, but that died down after pretty quick. Joe Burrow, Comeback Player of the Year. Mike Vrabel, Coach of the Year. And Whitworth wins Walter Payton Man of the Year. What were your thoughts on the awards? Are you surprised by any? Would you change any? What are your thoughts?
I think the biggest thing overall with the awards is these are regular season awards.
Yeah.
They're not playoff awards. Like if we were to include playoff awards, I would think Burrow is the MVP instead of Rodgers, but that's just my humble opinion.
Or Cooper Kupp.
Like you can make the argument for him too. I wouldn't be opposed to that. It's just these are regular season MVPs or Rookie of the Years or Offensive Player of the Years, whatever. So I take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, but yeah. I'm not really opposed to any one of those guys getting their award. The real question is, was there really some Mac Jones consideration, or did you think there was some Mac Jones consideration?
I heard, I don't know if it was like Patriots bias, but just because Patriots, what weapons do they really have? And I mean, quarterbacks tend to be favored towards awards more than others.
Yeah.
Except Offensive Player of the Year, because the MVP is basically the best quarterback of the year.
It's basically, it's basically a quarterback award.
So Mac Jones, when they were on that 8-game winning streak, a lot of people were saying Mac Jones, but I don't really think he had a shot because it was right when Mac was heating up, Jamar Chase kind of came back to earth a bit.
Yeah.
But I don't really think he had a chance as a Patriots fan. But regardless, I think successful season from Mac, but the story isn't about Mac right now. But I honestly think that the awards this year was a social. I think they hit the nail on the head with every single award. I think the one that might have been controversial was Burrow Comeback Player of the Year because Bosa, Dak, and Burrow all had good years. And I think Dak had the worst injury of them all. But I'm not saying the Burrow pick was a bad one. I just think out of all of them, that was maybe the most controversial one.
Well, and the other award I would maybe think about a little bit more is Defensive Player of the Year. I know it's either going to be Donald or Watt.
Yeah.
And like Aaron Donald is so good, he could probably win it every year. So I understand why. And not to say that TJ Watt's a bad player or that he had a bad season. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's just Aaron. It's like Mike Trout winning like AL MVP. Like he can do it every year with how valuable and impactful he is to the Angels. You could give it to Donald every year, and I don't think there'd be an issue. But, TJ Watt did have a great season for the Steelers.
Yeah. I think a lot of the NFL awards are narrative based.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
think TJ Watt breaking or like tying the sack record almost cemented it. If he
Oh, yeah.
didn't do that, then I think it would be a lot more up in the air. But I think it's like you got to tie the record
And
with
and he
with an
and he did
award.
it with like he missed the game too. So like he had a
Yeah.
16 game season instead of a 17 game
I think
season.
he had a 15 game season.
15 game season even, and
Yeah.
he still tied it. Like that's just
Yeah.
how ridiculously good that guy is and how fun he is to watch.
Yeah. That's the thing with TJ Watt tying the record. A lot of people were saying, like, are you, because people are obviously comparing it to Strahan, and without the extra game, he doesn't tie it. But what one are you saying is more impressive? Are you going based off sacks per game or the total games in a season? Because without that extra game, TJ Watt doesn't tie it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go like he still missed 2 games, so the record is still very impressive and I think just as validated as it should be. But I mean, the extra game he doesn't tie it, so it's all about how you look at it.
It's perspective. It's what your
Exactly.
perspective is in life.
Exactly, buddy. Exactly. But Super Bowl 56, right? I always forget.
LVI.
I always forget what it is. LVI. We'll just say LVI. What were your expectations going into the game?
I mean, we talked about it on my podcast. Like, I thought it was going to be a close game. I thought it would be competitive. I thought the Rams were probably going to win. I changed my pick last minute because I, kind of like Burrow and the Bengals, and a lot of people were voting for Burrow and the Bengals. But
Yeah.
I mean, this was kind of a people versus the analyst type game where a lot of the media was like, oh, the Rams are the better team. The Rams had better players. The Rams are going to win. And the people are like, yo, Joe Shiesty, this guy rocks. And we're going to pick the Bengals to win. But I thought it was going to be close. A little disappointed with how that finish was. But the Rams were the better team and they deserved to win.
No, yeah, they came out firing. So we'll kind of start from the beginning. And so the Rams start with the ball. And I don't believe they scored on the first possession, if I'm not mistaken. They went 3 and out. I think it may have been a couple times, but one player that stands out to me, obviously, was, and I think this is to everyone, this isn't a surprise, is OBJ. He comes out and he looks like he was 2016 New York Giants Odell. Like he is the yards after catch. He mossed. I don't want to say it was Eli Apple because I don't think it was, but he
for the touchdown.
Yeah,
it was Mike Hilton.
Yeah, scores a very nice touchdown to kick things off. And who better to go to than Odell? His storyline going into it. But were you, after that like first touchdown and the way the Rams were taking control, were you worried about the Bengals at all? Like, did you think it was like on the road to being some sort of rout, like for lack of a better term?
A little bit, but I think like it was more my concern about Burrow and the Bengals because Burrow, they had that drive where they went for it on 4th down and it was a bad read by Burrow. Like Higgins was the guy he should have thrown to who was in motion and was running the out route. And instead he throws this weird inside play, I want to say to Chase, who was double covered, if not really heavily covered by somebody. And it was like, okay, I hope it's not that kind of game for Joe Burrow where he's forcing it to the guy he really likes when he should have just thrown it to the guy who was open. But, the Odell narrative was really fascinating considering he was a guy who he looked like he had a chip on his shoulder. Like he looked like, screw you guys. I deserve to be here. I'm a part of this team and we're going to go win a championship. And he did his part for the first quarter and a half. The Rams don't win the Super Bowl without Odell Beckham Jr.
No, I don't think so either. And he also, you talk about chip on your shoulder because that's so true. Because he was in Cleveland and he was labeled as the problem. He was
Mhm.
like, he's a diva, he's not a team player, and all that
And even
nonsense.
and even before that, when he was with the Giants, like when he was
Yeah.
with New York, and he got that same sort of flack about not a team guy. You can't play with him. Like he's too much needs too much attention, and it just worked and it clicked with LA in the second half of the season. So
Yeah. So he comes to LA and he's like, I'm here to prove something. Like he was on The Shop, I believe, and he was saying that there's still a guy in there, and someone was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, Bruce Banner with the Hulk, like the Hulk's always within Bruce Banner, and he's like, I still got that monster in me, kind of thing. And then he tees off with when he gets to LA. So he was on the road to have a very big game. Obviously it's hard to say, but I mean, if he stays on the pace he was, we could be talking about Odell winning Super Bowl MVP.
oh yeah, totally. And it's funny when later on in the game, like when we got into like the third or fourth quarter, when things were slowing down a bit and there was not as much action, when Chris Collinsworth, who was calling the game, was saying about how like, well, the Rams are missing some of their weapons and that's why they're not able to, you know, make plays. It's like I don't totally agree with that because they still had Cooper Cup and they've had a couple good receivers, but it's like that's how much Odell meant in the first half of that game to them,
Yeah.
was having that great receiver who can create more mismatches for you against that secondary. And that mismatch led to the first touchdown of the game for the Rams, and it led to a few more chunk plays as well.
No, I totally agree with you there. But Matt Stafford, he was, suffering all those years in Detroit. I believe he was there for like 13 seasons, 12 seasons. And people were putting this narrative of him like the most underrated quarterback in the league. And a lot of people were agreeing with that, but also they were stemming towards he's been called underrated so much that he's almost become improperly rated or overrated at this point. But the Rams make this huge trade, like couple first round picks, couple others, and Jared Goff for Matt Stafford in hopes to win the Super Bowl. And they finally get there. And Stafford is just slinging it all season, despite him throwing the most interceptions in the league, most pick sixes in the league. You could tell that offense was different, and they get their goal, make it to the Super Bowl, and he comes out firing in the Super Bowl. Very efficient, over 100 yards, only like 2 completions, and a touchdown. And then he sends it deep to Van Jefferson, who then gets picked off by Jesse Bates. A lot of people were saying like bad throw, and I'm not doubting Hayden at all here. He said that Matt Stafford is due for a couple bad throws a game. Do you label that interception, and do you kind of label that as the turning point to the game?
It sure felt like it. It felt like it in real time. It felt like that, plus the Higgins touchdown right after halftime. Like those, and I guess the interception after, when it goes off Ben Skronik, I believe, who was the
Yeah.
one, like goes off his hands and interception. Like 3 massive plays in a row, momentum switch. It feels like it's switching from the Rams to the Bengals, but you know it's a play Stafford didn't have to make. I
Yeah.
understand why he didn't, why he did it. I don't know that he had to do it. Um, but certainly in that moment, it certainly like felt like watching at home, like, ooh, now the Bengals kind of have an opportunity to go and get ahead of LA and, put their stamp on this game.
Yeah. Because my thing is that it was a big third down that they had to convert. And I'm assuming that there wasn't a ton of options open for Stafford because they showed the other angles of who was covered and all that. And in a sense, he threw it up and he's like, if this is incomplete, we punt. If this is picked off, they're on their own 25. If this is caught, it's a touchdown. So regardless, I think they were going to find themselves either up 7 or in the Bengals territory playing defense. So I don't really put that throw on him. Yeah, it wasn't a great throw because you always want to overthrow it rather than underthrow it, depending on what your intentions are. But if you're going to throw it to the corner of the end zone, throw it like into the stands before you throw it short, right?
Don't give the defender the opportunity to make a play on the football.
Throw it where only your guy can get it. And
Yeah.
the throw was slightly underthrown. So, yeah, it wasn't a great throw. But I mean, regardless, I think the Rams were going to find themselves in a situation where they were playing defense in the Bengals territory if that ball isn't caught.
Well, and I mean, the other thing with the Rams too, especially with McVay, that team was good enough to overcome multiple turnovers, like especially on the defensive line, and that offense still, like even though I know Stafford threw 2 interceptions, still a legitimate elite offense. You can't deny that.
100%.
And you know, I think McVay is smart enough to know like there's going to be a few mistakes along the way, and it's so tough to play a perfect game, especially in a Super Bowl, that so long as your team is good enough to overcome a couple mistakes in the game, they have a good opportunity at winning. And that's what happened with the Rams, kind of like I said, in those 3 plays at the end of the first half, start of the second half, was that they were good enough to overcome those missed opportunities.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think the Rams came out firing, but I also do think the Bengals did a very good job at containing the developed momentum from the Rams and sticking to their game plan and not being afraid to go after Jalen Ramsey, because boy, oh boy, was that guy barbecue chicken that game. But what were your thoughts on obviously it paid off, but the ball's on Joe to just go after Ramsey after being labeled like one of the best cornerbacks. Were you was that one of the storylines of like Chase Ramsey, and were you looking forward to seeing if Burrow actually attacked him the way he did?
Oh yeah. And like Joe Burrow is the, confident guy who is going to try those. Like it's Joe Burrow. Like why wouldn't he try it?
Yeah.
And I mean, like one of my things from this game was that I thought Cincinnati put too much pressure on Burrow, especially near the end of the game when you could tell that he just wasn't 100% and he'd been taking a lot of crap from the Rams D all game. And he was not afraid to sling it. And he had to, because he had no opportunity. Like he didn't have 3 seconds. He maybe had 2 seconds to go make a play. And if Chase versus Ramsey or Higgins versus Ramsey was the matchup, go after it. Why not? Take your shots,
Yeah, just like T. Higgins said going into the game, he's like, just because Ramsey is their top dog doesn't mean that we're going to shy away from going after him, because we got another one of the best positions in the game on the other side of the field lining up against him. So it's going best on best, and we're not going to shy away just because he's the best. We're going to go at our best too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was just the Bengals are going in with so much swagger. So that's what I was really looking forward is to how much were they going to attack Ramsey, and were they really like not going to shy away from getting Jamar Chase the ball?
I mean, I think there was also a little bit of maybe not going after him too much, but kind of being it was a bit maybe easy to read what the Bengals and Burrow were doing, because there was, I believe so after the big Chase catch, the Chase one-handed catch in the first quarter, they're in the red zone, they're driving down, and the third down play is Burrow looking for Higgins. Higgins is on the right side, and he's trying to force this ball to Higgins, but Ramsey's all over him. Some would call a hold on it. And, from my perspective, if you're Burrow, I get that that's your guy, and I get that you think that's the best play, but it just wasn't there. Like you were forcing that there, waiting for that to happen. And, they had to settle for a field goal instead of a touchdown. It kind of makes you wonder if they got that touchdown, could things have changed? Could the score be different? Who knows? But all in all, I'm not going to complain too much about Joe Burrow. And, he did the best he could with what he had.
Yeah.
So
no, the Bengals, they got hot at the right time, and they totally deserved to be there. But One thing I do want to kind of revert back to was Odell getting hurt. He tears his ACL a few years ago, or like a couple years ago, back in Cleveland, gets back already, and then unfortunately goes down, non-contact injury. You can just see that left knee buckle and he's in pain. And immediately everyone's like, oh no, not after the start this guy was having. What was your reaction when you saw Odell go down with the knee injury?
I didn't want to believe it at first. And, you know, I know people are going to have the argument about turf versus grass and they shouldn't be playing on turf. And I think that's totally fair. But when I saw that play, it's just like, oh man, you know, obviously the immediate thought is hopefully he's okay. Hopefully he's feeling well. You know, I think he's had leg injuries both in Cleveland and in New York. So he's got a bit of an injury history,
Yeah.
but you know, you want to make sure that he's doing okay. And then it's like, how is this going to impact the rest of the team? Because now you're down to probably one elite receiver, a couple quality passing targets outside of that, but it does limit your opportunities when you don't have Odell as your second wide receiver. It limits where you can go and what you can do.
Yeah, because you see how much it did make an impact when Stafford threw that second interception. I don't think that's happening if Odell's a guy on the receiving end, right?
No, exactly. And it's just unlucky. It's just unlucky is what it is.
Yeah, it's incredibly unlucky. And I just hope that Odell finds a home. I hope he said he was willing to take a discount to stay in LA. So hopefully they kind of find a way to keep him, or he just finds a way to get healthy, because in the end that's all that matters. But I think this was a good contract that Odell signed, obviously because they won the freaking Super Bowl, but he was able to put the league back on notice, like, hey, I'm not gone, like I'm still here. Like he still has the electrifying playmaking ability that he had back in New York, that he just wasn't getting the ball in Cleveland. So putting the league on notice, I think, was a good thing that he did. And I just hope he gets back healthy, because that was a fun Odell that we were watching in LA.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Absolutely. Unless he played the Seahawks. But other than that, yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Halftime comes around.
Mm-hmm.
What was your thoughts on the show? I thought it was amazing, but what were your thoughts?
I thought it was great. I know, you know, we always have to do the is this the best halftime show ever type debate. And it was like, you know what? I thought it was like a really good, like 8.5, 9 out of 10. Like I thought everything they did was really well done. I especially enjoyed the Mary J. Blige part. I thought that was really good. I thought the Eminem part was really cool. I no complaints.
Yeah.
I was thoroughly enjoyed for like 15 minutes. And that's basically, and the other thing that I really enjoyed about this halftime show, they didn't do a lot, like they didn't mess around with like a lot of like effects or like a lot of like camera work. Like it was just the performers having a nice 15-minute show for everybody to enjoy. And that's what I really appreciated the most.
What song did you think they were gonna open up to?
I think our group said it was going to be California Love. We thought that's what they were going to start with, and they did play it, but not at first. So,
the next episode was what they opened up with, and it totally makes sense too. I was like, I felt dumb when they opened it up with it, and I was like, man, how did I not go with that? Because it was just so obvious. But 50 Cent makes a cameo. And boy, oh boy, was social media ever on fire after that halftime show. Have you seen some of the memes of 50 Cent?
I've seen a few. I think my favorite one is like somebody, it's like a fake conspiracy. It's like, wow, 50 Cent playing after 2 quarters of a football game. Like, whoa, big math there. Way to go, NFL.
I saw one, and it was Hayden showed me it, and it was just Spider-Man hanging from his web, and it was like 50 Cent during the halftime show. I thought that was funny, but one that made me absolutely howl was when he was pointing upside down, and then someone screenshotted it, and it was like, when you're trying to plug your charger into the outlet without getting out of bed. Yo, that made me die.
Very
laughing.
relevant. Very relevant.
And since he was looking a little heavy set too, people were calling him like 50 cent inflated up to $1.
I thought he looked all right. I thought he looked pretty good. I mean, it you know, I can't come. Here's the thing. I can't talk about what other people look like. So I thought he looked good.
No, I mean, I always thought of him as like a huskier gentleman. So I didn't really see like a huge difference during the halftime show, but I just thought the memes were on fire. They were electric.
For sure.
But
For sure.
yeah, do you agree with Eminem's song choice?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
I loved it.
It's Eminem. Like,
yeah.
What do you think of when you think of Eminem? Like, Lose Yourself? That's probably the first song I think of that comes to mind for me.
Lose Yourself, Till I Collapse.
Yeah.
Slim Shady.
I was hoping he would come out like in blonde, like old Slim Shady. We were talking about like him wearing a Stafford jersey.
Yeah.
But like if he came out in like old Slim Shady, like, apparel, I would have loved that.
That would have been amazing. But second half comes around. Big. I go to pee. I go to the bathroom for like 2 seconds. I was like, start of the half, like, like halftime show ended. I was like, okay, I got time. Went to the bathroom, grabbed a couple things, and next thing you know, I'm coming back and the Rams are up. They're winning. And I was like, what just happened? Like, what? And it was like 12 seconds in, and like Joe Burrow's taking off his helmet on the sideline, and they're like celebrating. And T. Higgins rattles off like, what was it, like a 75-yard touchdown pass?
Something like that, yeah.
What do you think of the no call?
Oh, it was totally botched. It was totally missed.
Yeah, because that was a pretty big face mask.
It was, and I mean, that seems like the stuff you should be like. You should. That seems like something so obvious that you should be able to like bring it back and call a flag. The problem is then when you get into like week 6 and it's Minnesota versus Chicago, and like there's like a subtle face mask, and it's kind of hit and miss. Then, do we want to really change the rules for all these sort of stuff, but all these sort of things? But yeah, I think that's something like we'll talk about officiating, about how like that's something you got to bring back. That's a call you can't miss.
No, you can't miss because it was so big, and I feel like it was pretty blatant. But I was surprised Jalen Ramsey didn't make a bigger reaction than he did.
Well, I think he just thought it was so obvious that it would be called.
Yeah.
I think that's just his natural reaction, his natural instinct. But I know what you mean with that. I know what you mean.
Like, yeah. I was expecting him to be all up in arms, but he just wasn't. I think he was more in like disbelief. Like, yeah. I'm speechless right now. Like, I can't even do anything. I'm surprised that wasn't called. But there was a few missed calls in the game. But Cooper Kupp, he a bit slow out of the gates. He's made his presence known a bit. But he starts heating up in like the later half of the third quarter, going into the fourth. When you saw that because the Rams were down at this point, when you saw the ball like going back and like going to Cooper Kupp, end arounds, converting that fourth down, like,
oh yeah,
did you think that the Rams had it?
I thought they would get a touchdown. I just thought there would be enough time for Cincinnati to score, and the Rams did a nice job of not going out of bounds. Like, they just killed enough time off the clock with some help from the refs. They just killed enough time off the clock to, give as little time as possible to Burrow to go get a final drive. And that was even close to getting a final drive. But like, in big time moments, you give the ball to your best players. And that's what McVay and the Rams did, was just get it to Cooper Kupp, make him make plays. And he did that.
You got to get the ball into your playmakers' hands. And because that's what got you so many wins this year. That's what got you all the success. And they had to stick to their game plan. They had to simplify it. And that's what they did. But they get the final touchdown. And then Aaron Donald decides to go beast mode and just remind everyone why he's the guy. That fourth down that the Bengals had to convert when your pizza showed up.
Yeah.
Did you think that, or at least when the Bengals scored with about a minute and a half left, if I'm not mistaken.
when the Rams scored.
Sorry, yeah, when the Rams scored, my mistake. Did you think that the Bengals had a chance at coming back, or did
Oh
you think
yeah.
that the pressure was going to get to them?
No, I thought they could come back. They only needed a field goal. Like the Chiefs tied the game with 13 seconds against the Bills. Like surely there's enough
True.
time for the Bengals to, and they had 2 timeouts. Like surely there's enough time for the Bengals to get into field goal range and score. And they did have a couple nice plays. They got Tyler Boyd involved in one. I think the first play of that drive was a Chase or Higgins.
It was Chase. It was Chase.
It was a Chase pass up the left side.
Yeah.
He got a good 20 yards out of that. There's certainly the opportunity to do so. It's just the other thing too is that the third down run too. Like I know it was 4 down territory, so the third down run and Mixon was just that short of getting a first down. But yeah, like you say, Aaron Donald, let it be known I'm the best defensive player in the NFL, and you can't do anything about it. And I'm going to ruin this guy's Super Bowl on this final play.
Yeah. Did you see that fourth down? He had Chase wide open.
Mm-hmm.
Man, just an extra second of time, half second.
Well, this is kind of what I was saying earlier about how there was too much pressure on Burrow, because the offensive line was just so. By that point of the game, going up against Donald, Miller, Leonard Floyd, it's just been so beat up that they don't have they really don't have that extra second to give. Yeah. And the pressure's all on Burrow to go make this play, kind of what they've been doing all postseason, and Burrow just can't get it done. And I mean, you could also argue the play call too, throwing it in that situation, but you're giving, like we talked about, you're giving the ball to your playmakers. You're letting Burrow go make a play instead of Mixon. That's, that's a fair play. You can't be too upset with that.
Yeah. The only thing I worry about running it on fourth down is just that it was still hard to find holes to break through. Running was a struggle for both teams. Mixon had a bit more stronger runs than Cam Akers did. Cam Akers, yeah, the running backs on LA, they couldn't get anything going.
Yeah. So
running it on fourth down there when this is your last drive to win the Super Bowl, you need at least a field goal. I think running it is just too risky. And
probably
I think dropping back for a pass was the best, but I mean, Donald wasn't going to let that happen.
No, and probably the numbers would say if you put the ball in Burrow's hands instead of Mixon's hands, that you're more likely to get a first down.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're playing percentages, and you live by Burrow, you die by Burrow if you're Cincinnati, and that's what happened on Sunday.
No, I 100% agree, and just that extra half second, he would have had Jamar Chase to the house, which is just, man, that would have been a sight to see. That would have been one of the craziest endings ever. But so Rams go on to win back-to-back Super Bowl winners in their home stadium, which is just the fact that back-to-back were hosted in the home city is just, that's crazy. And then both winners were the host city.
Well, and originally, pre-COVID, I believe, LA was supposed to host last year. But because of the delays to the stadium and how long it took to actually get the stadium built, they couldn't host the Super Bowl last year. And the NFL doesn't like stadiums to host a Super Bowl in its first year. So that's why it worked out this year. Worked out for the Bucks, worked out for the Rams. Pays to have, the Super Bowl in your home city.
No, 1,000%. But Cooper Kupp wins MVP. And what were your thoughts on that? Did you think he should have won? Do you think it should have gone to Donald? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you go to Kupp or Donald, probably. Those would be my two guys that, that you go to. But because this is the NFL and we're about offense, and Kupp got the game-winning touchdown, so we're makes sense that you give it to him. I again, it's kind of like with the NFL honors. I don't really have a problem with it. I can see why you give it to Donald, but Kupp is probably the most likely, most deserving candidate.
I was really hoping it went to Donald though, because I had some money invested in it.
Mm-hmm.
I bet like $2 to win like $42, and I'm for Donald to win. I'm like, made the game winning sack, like game winning play. Come on, please, yo. And then that nasty celebration with Donald just pointing at the ring. I love that. Yeah, I love that. But Cooper Kupp wins MVP. So this season, he arguably had the greatest wide receiver season ever. He won the receiving triple crown, most catches, touchdowns, yards by receiver. He won Offensive Player of the Year. He won Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP. Jerry Rice is the only wide receiver in NFL history to do all those things in an entire career. And Cooper Kupp did it in one season.
Not too shabby.
That is one of the best stats I've ever heard.
Former Eastern Washington University member from Yakima, Washington, by the way. Got to shout out Yakima on the podcast.
Shout out Yakima. Those small school guys, they'll get you. Those
FCS guys.
Yeah. Those white small college receivers are just, I mean, except Hunter Renfrow. He went to Clemson, but you get my point there.
Hunter Renfrow, though, is, feels like he's like 38, like, old man Hunter Renfrow, essentially, but he still, runs a solid, 5-yard option route, which you love to see.
No, do you think Cooper Kupp can build off this? Like, do you think he can keep up this, like, unbelievable play at receiver? Or do you think he'll kind of come back down to earth after the season?
I mean, law of averages, I would say he probably comes down. Like, I don't think the Rams are winning the Super Bowl next year. But I mean, statistically, he's probably going to come back down to earth, and it's never the same after you win the Super Bowl. Like, things just like people are targeting you. People know to scout you, know to look out for you. I mean, if he still has McVay and Stafford, I don't know why he couldn't at least have another, 1,000 to 1,500 yard season. Don't know why that couldn't be possible again. But to think that he's going to do this all over again, probably not. Yeah, I don't think so.
Chances are very slim. They're not in his favor, but
yeah.
A report prior to the game came out of Aaron Donald. If he wins, he's going to consider walking away or consider retiring. He is a 7-time All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 2014 Defensive Rookie of the Year, and he was named to the All-Decade team in 2020 for the 2010s. And obviously a Super Bowl champion now. Clear Hall of Famer. But what are your thoughts on, like, if he retires? Like, what do you think is going to happen with Aaron Donald?
First, as a Seahawks fan, I hope he's retiring. But like generally, like as a casual football fan, I hope he doesn't, because I think he is like one of the greatest players of my lifetime. He's been one of the toughest guys to defend. He's a defender. You can't slow him down. You really can't stop him. Double, triple teaming him. Nobody gets, covered like he does. And like, I think he's also a really good inspiration as somebody who was not really thought of highly coming out of the draft process, former, Pitt Panther. And he's busted his ass to get this far and to become one of the most dominant players of the last 10 years. I think it's a really positive story that people should be, reading into and looking into. So if he retires, fair game. He's done everything that he, can do. There isn't much else for him to prove.
Exactly.
And if he comes back next year, I'm sure he's still going to be, taking butts and, kicking butts and taking names.
No, I totally agree. You hit the nail on the head with, he doesn't really have anything to prove. But the thing is, it's like, it feels like it almost feels like he's just like peaking right now. And I would just hate to see him walk away because he's still so dominant.
Yeah.
And he's 30 years old right now. And it just feels like just another. You got Luke Kuechly retiring early, Andrew Luck retiring early, and I totally understand if he does. I mean, maintain your health. Football's with the CTE stuff coming around now, like it's a lot more prominent than it was back then. He has a Super Bowl now. He's probably one of the most defensive players to ever play the game. He doesn't have anything else to prove. But as a football fan, and I'm a Patriots fan, so the Rams don't really bother me too much unless it comes down to the Super Bowl. But I hope Donald doesn't retire because he provides so much for the game. He provides constant highlights and just jaw-dropping highlights of just like double teams and just bull rushing both of them over.
And he's doing this as an interior guy. Like he's not an edge rusher. Like
that's
he's doing
the crazy thing. He's putting up edge rusher numbers as a defensive tackle, which is like unheard of.
And that's just how good this guy is. That's just how talented he is.
Yeah, because you'll see defensive tackles put up edge rusher numbers maybe like once one season within like a 10-year career. He puts them up
one season, or like a good 6 weeks in a year.
Yeah, he puts them up year after year, and it's like he is something else to watch. And he's going to be one of those players that when he retires, it's going to be like you didn't know what you had until he was gone. And it's going to be unfortunate when he does, because I think a lot of people aren't, or I think a lot of us, including myself, are taking him for granted. Like, I think when he leaves, it's going to be like, damn, like I was able to watch one of the greatest defensive players ever play, like at his prime.
Because it was funny when I remember, watching like when Jeff Fisher was like the coach of the Rams.
Yeah.
And it's just like, man, they got this defense down with Donald and like a bunch of other guys. He used to play for the Bears. Who's the other guy I'm thinking of? Not Leonard Floyd, but like somebody else. Robert Quinn. Like they had Robert Quinn in their interior line. And like I remember saying, like, man, if the Rams can figure out the offense, they got all the defensive pieces, because like those guys are so good. And that was like 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And look at them now.
Yeah, because people always call him Donald, like undersized for his position. And then he just said, like, okay, like call me whatever you want. I'm just gonna go out there. Like, I know my abilities. And then he went out and
he's stronger than anybody.
Yeah.
He trains with knives. How are you gonna bet against a guy who trains with knives in the offseason?
Seriously, he trains with knives and bench presses 500 pounds.
Like, how are you gonna go against that?
It's impossible. It's impossible.
Yeah.
So shout out to Aaron Donald. I really hope he doesn't retire. I don't think he will, but
I don't think so.
We just had to touch on it just in case it does. But speaking of retirement, Eric Weddle. Now, this guy's story here. So Eric Weddle played through. He came out of retirement, signed with the Rams for the playoff run. He called the plays on defense, led the team in tackles during the playoffs after missing 750 plus days of football, and in the Super Bowl played 3+ quarters with a ruptured pec in 2 places. Now, if that's not the most football guy shit you have ever read in your entire life, I don't want to hear anything else, because that's the most badass thing I've ever seen. Ever.
Oh, yeah. And I love hearing people who are like, oh, are you going to, come out of retirement? Are you going to get back into football? No, why would you? You literally, again, same thing with like Donald, where like you've literally done everything. Weddle has the best story, like the storybook ending to a career you could ever want, of just like came out of retirement, hurt myself, called plays in the Super Bowl, and we still won.
Yeah. So unretires, tears pec, wins Super Bowl, re-retires.
Yeah. Like what else are you gonna do? Like you just did it. You don't need to do anything else. You did what you set out to do.
Yeah, so I thought that was the most unbelievable thing ever, and I just thought it was most definitely worth mentioning. So Eric Weddle, official football guy. But Matt Stafford, I want to touch on him now. After winning the Super Bowl, doesn't get the MVP, but he still played a great game, because some of the turnovers weren't, maybe the first one is, but like we mentioned, it wasn't really like a impactful interception. It was like at the end of the first half and all that. So now the question comes in, is Matt Stafford now a Hall of Famer? He has the stats to his name. He has the passing yards. He has the fourth quarter comebacks within 2 minutes, but he was suffocating on that Detroit Lions team for like his entire career up until now. First season with the Rams with like an actual competent team. He wins the Super Bowl and he has a pretty damn good season too. Now, do you think he is a Hall of Famer after this win?
I think yes.
Yeah.
Listen, I think he's got the stats. I think he's talented enough. I think if he's not on Detroit, we're looking at him differently. It kind of like a little bit of like a poor man's Connor McDavid in a way.
Okay.
Like I feel like, not saying that Stafford is the Connor McDavid of football, but like Connor McDavid's on a shit team.
Yeah.
That doesn't do anything in the postseason. Stafford hardly even got to the postseason in Detroit.
Got there 3 times in 13 seasons.
Yeah, and his team was not favored to win in any of those games. Didn't win any of those games, and they still lost. And the one time he goes to LA, he plays on an exceptional team. He does what he's supposed to do. He wins a Super Bowl. He's a big reason why they win the Super Bowl. And I mean, we should be so blessed and thankful to live in a generation, like for myself, watching football for like the last almost 20 years of like outstanding quarterback play, like tremendous quarterback play. Yeah. And I think Stafford is one of those guys. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I think there's a bunch of Hall of Fame quarterbacks from this generation. If I got a vote, I'd probably put him in. You could make the argument he needs another one, but another Super Bowl, but
yeah,
he's got the same amount of Super Bowls as Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, if you want to have that argument, has more than Phillip Rivers.
Yeah. And like he has the stats back behind it, and he was on like a really shit team for his entire career.
Yeah, absolutely. There was more there. I know people want to say, oh, he threw to Calvin Johnson for so many years. There's more receivers than Calvin Johnson on an NFL roster. I hate to break it to you.
Yeah.
Brandon Pettigrew was like a real guy that he had to throw to. I'm not going to go into all the Detroit receivers that he had to throw to, but like, there's more than Calvin Johnson. I think he's a Hall of Famer, just straight up.
Yeah. So I think he's fringe right now. I want to see him kind of put a few more accolades under his belt. And none of that is to his fault because of the teams he was on. But the reason why I asked this question is because your boy, former Seattle Seahawk, Richard Sherman, on if Stafford is a Hall of Famer. Now, I don't know if you've seen this quote. There's a good chance you have because it's going around social media right now. Quote unquote from Richard Sherman. The Hall of Fame bar is incredibly low now, like a participation trophy. No all-decade team, no all-pro, no MVP, one Pro Bowl, not even MVP of the Super Bowl. Never considered the best in any year he played. At least Matt Ryan has an MVP. What are your thoughts on that quote?
Couple things. One, this is a silly season where everybody just says a bunch of random stuff because there is no football. So we all have to make up content. Like we all have to make up stuff so we get clicks and we all get likes.
Yeah.
Not saying that's entirely what Sherman's doing, but just in general, like if you see something that's like, well, that's totally inaccurate, it's probably just somebody saying something for engagement. Two, look at Sherman. Sherman would probably tell you he's a Hall of Famer. And the only thing he had, like he has one Super Bowl and was thought of as the best at his position for 3 years, probably more, but like in his prime, probably 3 or 4 years. So I think whatever he's saying about Matt Stafford, you could also apply to himself. And again, I love Richard Sherman. Like he's my favorite, like one of my favorite Seattle athletes. I don't have any grudges against him. I think he's one of the coolest dudes that I ever got to see play. So I don't have any grudges against him. I mean, Matt Ryan, the only reason he was an MVP was because he got to play under Kyle Shanahan for 1 year, and otherwise he's kind of been a quarterback. And Stafford, I think, has better numbers and, has been a better quarterback than Matt Ryan.
Yeah, you can definitely make the argument for both. But yeah, I'm on the fence with Stafford. I can really see him being a for sure Hall of Famer. And I really think he will end up being a Hall of Famer because I don't think he's finished in LA. And he's like what? He's like 34 right now, 32, 34. Can't exactly remember, but I think he still has a few years under his belt. And if he stays in LA, like I don't think that team's going anywhere. I think if they can re-sign Odell, like once he's back stronger, they're going to get Robert Woods back too. So that receiving core is probably going to be the best in the league if they can bring both those guys back. And Cam Akers is young. He's still going to be explosive. So I think Stafford is going to end up in the Hall of Fame, but right now I think he's on the fringe. Like he's leaning both ways right now. If he's in the Hall of Fame, I'm not going to be upset, but if he's not, then I understand why. But he's the people's choice to go in the MVP. If that makes sense.
Oh, sure. And I mean, my favorite thing for many years was, and even still today, like Lions fans, on Reddit or just, comment sections being like, Stafford would be the greatest quarterback if he didn't play on our team.
Yeah.
And like, it's literally Lions fans admitting like our team is garbage. Our ownership is trash. Poor. Like we're so thankful that we got to have him. But if he wasn't on our team, he might've had a better career.
Yeah. No, it's definitely an interesting conversation to look at. And I'm looking forward to see what happens and how the rest of his career shapes out. But so sticking with Super Bowl, I kind of want to go to this and I want to give you some time because I want to look at Super Bowl 57 odds. And I have the top 6 right here. According to CBS Sports, I just went on their website and looked them up. But I want you to go on there and I want you to find a team outside of the top 6. And I want your favorite pick on who has a chance to win. So I'll list off the top 6 right here, according to what I wrote down. And let me know if anything's different. So number 1 is the Chiefs at plus 650, Bills plus 700, Rams plus 1,000, Bengals plus 1,200, 49ers plus 1,400, and Packers plus 1,500. That's my top 6 right there. I don't know if it's any different than what you got, but what do you like as like a long shot outside of the top 6? I have 4 teams here, but I want to hear what you got first. I kind of want to hear your thoughts.
Outside of that top 6, I like Baltimore at plus 2,000.
Yeah, I have them too.
I mean, the Patriots, I think they could be, considered contenders. The Chargers have the same odds as the Patriots. I'd probably, throw some money on the Chargers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even like maybe Philadelphia, like a little sprinkle on Philadelphia.
Interesting. I mean, the NFC is wide open.
The NFC East.
Yeah.
They have the same odds as the Seahawks. The only difference is that the Seahawks are in a tougher division than the Eagles. So that's kind of why I like the Eagles. Those would be like the 2 teams or 3 teams, I guess, really, that I would put like a bit of money on. I don't know if the Cardinals are a little sketch.
So I got 4 teams here.
Sure, go. What are your 4 teams?
So I kind of started off hot here. The Bucks at plus 1,800.
Okay.
they've been linked to Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson.
Well, everybody's linked to Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson at this point.
So if they can get their hands on them, they can maybe entice to bring Chris Godwin back. They got Mike Evans. They got that O-line. Leonard Fournette is playing like what was projected coming out of LSU. And if that defense is as good as it has been, they got a young secondary that was banged up and should be better coming into next season. With the NFC wide open, I could see them still being in the hunt for a Super Bowl, or at least in the NFC Championship game.
It's the quarterback that's the biggest issue with Tampa Bay, right?
It's all speculation. It's all speculation. If they don't get a quarterback, then it's wraps. Like if they got Kyle Trask going into the year, then it's like good night.
How dare you disrespect former Florida Gator Kyle Trask?
I just did it. But I also have Ravens at plus 2,000 because they had the season from hell. Like every team has a season from hell, and Ravens.
Yeah, and like that just feels like a really good bounce back candidate. Like you have the quarterback, you have the coach. They're making some staff changes with Baltimore, kind of weird, but I like them as a team to bounce back.
And my next two teams are also quarterback dependent. The Broncos at plus 2,200. If they get Rodgers, sprinkle a little bit there. And the Steelers at plus 6,000.
Here's the thing. The Broncos, like, I need to see some sustained success from the Broncos before. I mean, this is also the same, person who just watched Cincinnati get to a Super Bowl. But like with Denver, I kind of need a little bit more sustained success. And Pittsburgh, I just can't root for Pittsburgh. I know Big Ben's gone, but I still I need to have a little bit of like Big Ben gone from the Steelers for me to actually be able to support them. Their defense looks really good.
I'm not necessarily cheering for them. I'm just sprinkle a little, like the odds are there plus 6,000. If you jump on them before, what if they acquire Rodgers? They go into the top 5 of odds with that defense, and their receivers are still good. Johnson, Juju, and Claypool. Like that's still a good wide receiver core, and they got Najee. They just need to upgrade that offensive line, but I mean, it can't get any worse than it was this past season. So their odds jump up.
They're also in a tough division.
So are the Broncos.
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't like the Broncos either. That's another. Yeah.
I mean, Chargers are in that same division.
Yeah, but the Chargers, I feel like they got a bunch of cap space, and they have the best quarterback of probably any of the teams that we've mentioned. I mean, fair. You could throw Lamar Jackson. I mean, depends on how you feel about Lamar Jackson, but like, I feel like you have the best quarterback of any of the teams that we mentioned is Herbert. I think they probably have more cap space than anybody else.
Fair enough.
And the Chargers are probably in the playoffs if the Raiders miss a field goal.
Yeah, or Brandon Staley doesn't call a timeout.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got Steelers at plus 6,000. I haven't bet on any of these teams. I bet on someone else as a future. But Steelers plus 6,000. If they acquire a big quarterback like Deshaun, Russell, or Packers, their odds are shooting up. So it could be an interesting play.
Who's a big quarterback that they could acquire? Brock Osweiler.
Literally big.
Literally, that's the first thing that came to mind.
Or just like bring Big Ben back. Big is literally in his name.
Literally big.
But I sprinkled money on I'll put this out there. I'll put my money where my mouth is. I put $10 on the 49ers.
Yeah, I mean that's probably not a bad play. They're not far off. They just need
if Trey Lance is like a good quarterback this year. I mean, they made it to the NFC Championship this game with Jimmy Garoppolo. Defense is there. And I think their weapons are there. So why not?
Why not?
Why not, right? But one quick note. Are you done with the Super Bowl odds, or do you have any other opinions towards anything?
You talk about the Steelers at plus 6,000. On a lesser note, like this team could use quite a bit on offense. The Washington Commanders, if they get like a quarterback, top receiver, another good receiver, That's a team I think that's kind of like Baltimore, like in the like bounce back, we can get a better year going.
Yeah.
Because their season kind of got derailed in week 1 with Ryan Fitzmagic getting injured, and they just were never the same after that.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there.
No.
Just throwing it out there.
Also, yeah, Washington Commanders. I haven't talked about that yet. Not the football team anymore. What are your thoughts on the name?
It's okay. I think like anything, you kind of just get used to it.
I was honestly getting used to the football team.
I think I prefer football team than Commanders, but like
I kind of liked it. It was starting to grow on me.
Yeah, I don't mind. I think it's a nice, nice kind of curveball. Again, like doing something different. Nobody else has football team in the NFL. Why not do football team? Commanders is fine. Very, Army Navy type vibe from Commanders, which sure, okay.
Yeah, I guess so. But Kyler Murray and the Cardinals in a little bit of a feud right now. Jesus, English, Jevin, speak. But I'm breaking in my new tongue, Ian. Kyler Murray's come out and said that he's frustrated with the organization and feels that he's been the scapegoat to their failures. And Arizona has come out and said that Kyler Murray needs to mature and be a better leader. What are your thoughts as a Seattle Seahawks fan and division rival of the Arizona Coyotes? What are your thoughts on these reports of Kyler Murray?
Arizona Coyotes.
Yeah. I mean, they're bad in the NHL. Why not try them out in the NHL? Trade the Cardinals and the Coyotes. But that's for later on in the episode. But no, yeah, Arizona Cardinals.
I honestly believe that the Coyotes should be playing at the University of Phoenix Stadium instead of the ASU Stadium. No, I mean, again, I think this is silly season with football where we're all looking to, for content, and we're all looking for something to, jump on. And this is one of those things. I think Kyler's a great quarterback. I think Cliff's a good coach. I think this team can be really good. Listen, relationships, and me being the relationship expert, obviously, can be difficult. It can be tough to be in a relationship with somebody, and it's not always going to be a smooth ride. You're going to have bumps along the way. And, when you succeed and when you eventually, hopefully win a title, win a championship, it'll make all this that much more positive. Like, it'll make you feel so much better about yourself. The fact that you were able to go through this pain and go through this negativity in your life to do something well. That's how I see this. I listen, both would be ridiculous to leave. It'd be ridiculous for the Cardinals to let go of Murray, because find me like, who do you think? Like, do you think you can go get a better quarterback than Kyler Murray? Good luck. Yeah. And Kyler Murray leaving Arizona, I think would be, really dumb, considering like baseball's in a lockout right now and he couldn't go play in Major League Baseball. So that's why I think it makes sense for both to just, work together, figure it out, talk about your issues together as a couple.
Put egos aside.
Yeah, put your egos aside and let's go win some football games.
No, I'm in total agreement there. Kyler Murray, he's, denying all allegations that he's like immature, not a leader. And I just think they need to be grown-ups, be professionals here. You look at Rodgers in Green Bay, and everyone thought that was over. And now Rodgers has come out and said he's still, as his future in Green Bay looms, he's in a positive place in Green Bay. He just came out and said that. So it's like, now what's going to happen? So,
but like, in a positive place in Green Bay, like he's living in a nice part of town. He's living in Milwaukee.
I think you said positive situation or something like that.
Oh,
so,
okay.
So if things are like that and everyone thought it was over in Green Bay, then I'm not putting anything out of the equation here. So I think it's best for both sides to, figure this out and try and win some goddamn football games, because they're in probably, I would say, the hardest division in football in the NFC West, and they can't have any drama going on because that division is not a lock for any team, right? So I think winning is the most important thing. So they need to figure this out ASAP, and I think the best situation is just to put egos aside, go behind closed doors, and just play football. You got one of the best receivers in DeAndre Hopkins. So if you're trying to
you got a great
oh,
receiving core. You had a pretty good O-line last year, if I'm not mistaken. Defense wasn't too bad. You got some defensive pieces too.
Yeah.
Like, it's there. You just have to figure it out.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with you there. So that's NFL talk. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on before we head over to the pond? Some frozen water sports.
Can take a little bit of time off football.
Yeah.
Even though football never seems to stop, it's the only 24/7 sport. Take a little bit of time to focus on other things.
Yeah, and we get to wait till the intense off season coming in a few weeks here. But the NHL, some big headlines made this week. Lots of players are on the trade bait board, are looking to be traded this deadline, and one name that was briefly talked about in trade talks and then shipped, Tyler Toffoli, traded to the Calgary Flames in exchange for a first-round pick, top 10 protected, but chances are it's going to be this year anyway because Calgary's
probably going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, despite a collapse, they're not going to be in the top 10. A fifth-round pick in 2023, Emil Heineman, and Tyler Pitlick. So, what are your thoughts on this trade? And were you surprised that Tyler Toffoli was moved so quick?
No, not really. I would have loved to have, I would love if like Ken Hughes or Jeff Gordon was like, no, we can't do this deal without Tyler Pitlick. Like, Pitlick has to be a part of the deal or else it's not happening. And then, Brad Sheeleman's like, oh, okay, here you go. Here's Tyler Pitlick. Sure. No, I think this is probably about right. Like, this is probably about market value for Tyler Toffoli. It's more of, it's more for myself an admission of like things didn't go well in Montreal.
Yeah. It was just like they had that cup run.
Things didn't go well for Montreal for like outside of like 2 or 3 months. Outside of a playoff run, things didn't go well in Montreal.
No, 1000%.
So, and Calgary should be a really good fit for him. I think the Flames needed another goal scorer, and Toffoli seems like a playoff type fit for them too. Not just like a guy who could do well in the regular season, but somebody who can, crash the net, play in the corners. He can be a tough guy to play against in the playoffs. So I think this is a perfect deal for both sides.
No, I think it's a perfect deal for both sides too, because Tyler Toffoli is a winger who on a decent team can produce at a very good level. And I think if he's going to be on Calgary, and speaking of which, he just scored the 6th goal for Calgary over Columbus tonight. We're recording Tuesday night. So right there, making an impact right off the hop. So I think he can produce. He's only making like just over $4 million a year. So I think for a 20 goal top 6 forward making $4 million, like that's unbelievable value. And like you said, he has playoff experience, and Calgary's obviously in a situation where they're more of a contender than in a position to rebuild.
It's one of those deals that you make when you're becoming a contender, like when you're becoming that playoff team. And for Montreal, he's one of those guys that you got to move to get assets back in return.
No, I totally agree with you there. So I think it was a W for both sides. Another big headline: Jack Eichel is set to make his Las Vegas Golden Knights debut Wednesday night against Colorado. And conveniently, Mark Stone is on the LTIR for until further notice. So good old cap circumvention on the league there. But what do you expect with this Jack Eichel return and debut for Vegas?
Is this in Vegas or is this in Colorado?
Colorado's playing tonight a home game, so I'm assuming it's in Colorado. Let me check here, boss.
Here's the thing. You kill time.
It's in Vegas. It's in Vegas.
Perfect. You do the whole WWE like wrestling intro thing for Jack Eichel. Yeah. Theme music, glass shattering. Bruce Buffer coming in doing the intro for Eichel. Like, it's Vegas. It's a show. And Vegas is not dumb. They know what they're doing. We know what we're doing and bringing, arguably, when he's good, like when he's on, a top 10 player in this league against a team that's going to be our biggest rival in the Western Conference, our biggest threat. You make it a show. You make it entertaining. That's what I expect. Anything less than that is going to be extremely disappointing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And he's such a big name. And I was talking about this a few episodes back, like when this trade was made with my buddy Matt, when he is on the top of his game, Jack Eichel, he is easily a top 5 player in the league, in my opinion. Yeah. He is so unbelievable. His speed is so deceiving. He has one of the best shots in the league, like releases. And it just sucks that he was sewered in a situation like Buffalo. He's like the Matt Stafford. He's the Matt Stafford of the NHL.
He just didn't spend 10. He spent 5 years in Buffalo, not 10 years in Detroit.
But it probably felt like 800 years in Buffalo.
That might be like the NFL, the NHL equivalent. Like 10 years in Detroit might be the NHL equivalent of 5 years in Buffalo.
No, totally. 1000%. But I'm excited for this, for Jack Eichel's debut, and not at all because I have him on my fantasy team. So it has nothing to do with that, I promise you. But it has a little bit to do with it. But I'm excited for this. As a Canucks fan, I'm scared because I hate Vegas because of how good they are so early on in their NHL franchise. But they just did a good job building a team. And I'm jealous because the Canucks did not do a good job at building a team. But no, do you think Jack Eichel's going to kill it?
Why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. I know for myself personally, if I got the opportunity to move to Vegas after being in Buffalo, I would absolutely thrive. I would be killing it. Between the weather, lifestyle, the opportunity to gamble at any place, I would just kill it. I'm sure Eichel is probably. I'm sure Eichel and I would live a pretty similar lifestyle in Vegas. Probably, gambling, drinking alcohol quite a bit, down by the pool.
Yeah, just having a grand old time.
And then trying to play hockey during that time too. I think could really go well. Maybe that. Yeah,
that's the secret.
That's the secret. That's that's a place that no one's really talking about too. Of like, guys want to be playing in Las Vegas compared to like, I don't know, 20 other NHL cities.
I just hope it doesn't turn into the NFL and everyone gets DUIs and battery charges against them.
Sure. But, we'll cross that bridge if we get there at some point. Yeah, I hope not.
Totally. But next topic. I haven't talked about this yet, but Arizona, we touched on this briefly. Arizona has signed a 3-year deal to play in the sportsplex at Arizona State University, where capacity of 5,000 fans. This is just the definition of Arizona Coyotes not having enough money, not paying their bills on time, and then moving from a standard 18,000 seat NHL arena, professional sports, professional ice hockey arena to a college barn. That's a perfect example of Arizona hockey right there.
So I have a bunch of different thoughts on this. I don't know how well you know the Arizona situation. So basically where their arena is now in Glendale, it's nowhere near where the major, like most of their fans are. Like it's 45 minutes in the opposite direction of town. So now being in Tempe, they're going to be closer to where their fan base is. I actually believe if you sell out that barn every night and you make prices affordable, like if you attract a bunch of college kids from ASU to go watch Coyotes hockey, and you pack that barn, you create an atmosphere that's, kind of like a junior rink for what is it, 41 games a year. You could really like get yourself established, and you can really grow that fan base and have the long-term fans that they're hoping for in Arizona. I don't know that it's going to happen. And I get that everybody thinks it's a joke and it's a meme, and it really is. But if you're looking at it from trying to actually make the Coyotes a viable product, fill the barn with college students, 5,000 college students, 41 nights a year, make it affordable. Don't charge an arm and a leg for beer and drinks and food. Make it affordable. Get the college kids out, and you're going to absolutely crush it. You're going to create like a product that people are going to want to pay to go and see. And like, because especially now after with COVID, like sporting events are just so expensive to go to. Yeah. This can be the one opportunity. And besides, the Coyotes are already getting revenue sharing anyway, so they already know that. And having hockey in Arizona is more or less a losing product. Like, you're losing money anyways. Why not just make it a fun atmosphere for college kids?
No, that's a good point. Kind of change your perspective and demographic almost.
Well, and like, so they used to play in Glendale, like near where the Cardinals play. And that location makes sense for the Cardinals because you're only hosting 10 games, including preseason a year. And for football, people are willing to drive out like for 40 minutes to go watch the football game. Like because football is an all day party. Hockey isn't. Yeah. And hockey, like if you make it easy for people to get to, if you make it affordable for people to go watch, it's near where most of their fan base is, where the older white people are, near Scottsdale and Tempe. That's a recipe, somewhat of a recipe for success, so long as you get the actual real NHL building there at some point. Why not? No,
you raise good points, Ian. You raise good points. You're not just a pretty face.
Nobody's called me that. I basically have to have good points and a personality to make up for.
Hey, don't say that about yourself.
Oh, thank you,
King.
Thank you. We it's nice to see guys supporting guys here on Left Side Heavy.
You only gas up each other on Left Side Heavy.
Exactly.
Unless Hayden comes on, then just let it fly. I'll tag him in this.
Fair enough.
On Instagram.
Fair enough.
All right, Ian. That's the podcast. Usually I do it on this day in sports history, but we're running a little bit long this episode, and I definitely did not forget to find some, and I don't really want to look for some right now. So
no, totally. I totally get that you're going long, yeah, and it's still I understand.
But Ian, thank you for coming on. This is your time to shine. Let the people know where they can find you, your work.
So you can follow my work on Instagram at SYPpod. We're posting, my schedule is a bit whack, but we usually try and do at least one podcast a week. You can listen to my podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, you can listen to us. We have the Speak Your Piece YouTube channel, so you can check out some clips, some full pods on YouTube. All the links are on our Spotify and our Apple Podcasts. So basically, you can go check us out on our website too. I do some articles sometimes here and there when I got time. But Speak Your Piece at SYP Pod on Instagram. Check us out, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And, tell them Jevin sent you. Tell us Jevin sent you. That doesn't really mean much in terms of like shop or like a promo code, but it's just nice to know that there's a connection, that it's synergy. We're working together. That's what's most important.
Exactly. But I mean, you could have left that out. They didn't have to know that, right? They didn't have to know that.
Well, I mean, again, I haven't done as much as I want to, just because of how my schedule is. Because this week I get to go down to the States on Saturday, and then February 26th, I'm going to be at Climate Pledge Arena covering the Everett Silvertips and Seattle Thunderbirds game.
Fire. That's fire.
Fine. Get to see some winning hockey at Climate Pledge Arena this year. Finally.
Hopefully it's in a winning effort. But Everyone, you know where to follow me on Instagram at Jevon.Lefave, on Twitter at JevonLefave. Find everything for the show on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at LeftSideHeavy_. Subscribe to the YouTube channel Left Side Heavy. Ring the bell, press notifications, like, comment, do all that sorts of jazz. And if you hear a little yappy dog in the background of this episode, I apologize. I'm going to try and cut out as much as I can. And if you didn't hear a dog, then that means I did my job correctly. So shout out to me. But if you do hear a dog, then my apologies. I guess I forgot to lock them out of the basement, and they tend to just not care that I'm recording. Like, they should know that I'm recording an episode. I put the sign on the door.
See,
So
well, you see, my dog is like very needy. Like
yeah.
he needs to go out like well, I don't know how old your dog is. Like my dog's like about like 10. So like he's getting to be like an old man, right? So like he needs to go out like every couple of hours. And he doesn't understand that he's taking, time in my life to go look after him. Like I have important things to do, but sure, we'll go for your walk.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because your dog, Caslow,
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking after my sister's dog, Caslow.
That's right. We've had this conversation
Yeah.
before, haven't we? About
Yeah.
like coincidental names.
Yeah. And it was funny because the day I found out that they got a dog and named her Caslow was the day I got home from your place when we went up to Squamish to play Furry Creek. And you
Yeah.
introduced me to your dog, Caslow, when we watched McGregor Poirier. And I got home and it was like, yeah, Kelson Tanner got a dog. I was like, oh, sweet. What's her name? Caslow. And I was like,
No, seriously. No, seriously. What's the dog's name?
Yeah. And I was like, I got to text Ian to make sure I heard that name correctly. And Caslow, it's crazy. But yeah, we're looking after my sister's Caslow for a few days. And my dog tends to just like sometimes take a break from playing and just chilling. My dog's only like 2.5 years old, right? He's not old at all. But compared to her, it's like he needs like, yo, chill out. And whenever he's not playing, when she wants to play, she just goes off. And that's exactly what was happening. And it just happened to be right outside my door that has the sign recording on it. So it's pretty rude of them. And I'm going to be very unhappy when we press end here. So I'm going to have to give them a little stern talking to. But yeah, that's my little rant. So if you hear dog barking, that's because Caslow wanted to play and Dodger didn't. So everyone, thank you for listening to this week's episode. Tune in next week, and where it'll be a lot more hockey content from here on out as the football season is coming to an end. There will be some free agency episodes recorded, and you will be seeing Ian's face and voice, depends if you're watching or listening on this podcast going forward, because he's part of the Left Side Heavy family. You know what I'm saying? And he's always like a good safety net.
It's like Olive Garden. Like what when you're here, you're family.
Exactly. That's a great way to end it off. Thank you guys for listening. Follow the socials, leave a rating and a review, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace.